Hi everyone, welcome back to another Georgeville Historical Society interview. My name is Ariane, and today I'm sitting next to Alex Bernais, who has kindly agreed to be my next interviewee. Alex has lived in Georgeville his entire life and has been the constructional backbone of this village, building and maintaining many of the fine homes we see in Georgeville. He was also the third fire chief and lasted in this position for over 30 years. I felt that interviewing Alex was a necessity for the Georgeville Historical Society because Alex's family has been around for generations. I feel strongly that the village would be a very different place if it weren't for the Bernais family, and so without further ado, I would like to introduce everyone to Alex Bernais. Good morning, Alex. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fine, and yourself?
Pretty good. So I want to begin this interview at the beginning of your family's history in Georgeville. So, when did the Bernais family come to Georgeville?
My mom came as a girl, and my dad came, I guess, to go out with my mom. I think that's the whole reason.
And so where did your mom grow up when she first moved here?
Originally, she was from Fitch Bay as a girl, and then they moved on to Magoons Point, where her parents bought a house. And they lived there from then on we lived on Magoons Point, or my family did.
So Alex, can you tell me where and when you were born?
I was born in Magog at the Providence Hospital, which is much smaller than what it is today, in 1944.
And what house did you grow up in?
I grew up in a house on Magoons Point, which burnt when I was 10 years old. The day it burnt, I remember really well, because I was told to keep my little brother away from, so my parents could move furniture out of the house, because there was no help then, no fire department, no such thing. Yeah. Only neighbors helping. Dad rented, and then we moved the building there, and 20 or so of the neighbors all made a bee and spent 3 days building a house, which even us kids had to get involved in. Because anything the kids could do, like being 11 years old at the time, we helped shingle roofs, and anything that we could do, we had to help, because the idea was to have a house to live in.
And so you've been in construction your whole life. Do you think that was probably like your first construction project?
Definitely. It was something we had to do to help.
Right.
Because everybody helped, and all the neighbors came. So it was really good, and Mom made them all dinner, and there probably was a couple other ladies helping. I can remember them all, everybody sitting around at noon, and again at supper time, because the day was long. I mean, the men came at daylight and finished, it was dark. So to get a roof over our heads, which was a real nice thing.
And what school did you attend growing up?
Well, Memorial School in Georgeville, where the Memorial Hall is, and I went there till grade 7, and from there we went to Princess Elizabeth in Magog, and we finished the high school. It was high school then. We finished high school there.
And who were your classmates when you went to the Memorial Hall School? Do you remember?
Wayne McTavish, Doug Granger, 2 or 3 of the Brown children, because it was a big family. Two of my cousins, Maple and Raymond Alex, who lived at Bernais. There was Robinsons and Roland Vancor, and many others, as you saw in the picture I showed you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And who were your teachers when you at school?
Was Mrs. Mosier and Miss Bailey, and then became Mrs. Kelly.
Oh, nice.
And she had a brand new car, which all us kids could remember real well, because cars boys liked.
Yeah, and there weren't a lot of cars in the village, eh?
No, not very many. Yeah, there was a few cars in the village. Yeah.
And because there weren't that many cars, how did you guys get to the Magog High School when you changed schools?
We were bused from Magoons Point to Georgeville, basically by the Camber family, which was Edna mainly, and then from Georgeville to Magog by Stan Hutchins, who took us from here to Magog on I think it was a provincial bus at that time. He started doing it with his own vehicle, and then the provincial bus took over, I believe. I don't know. I know it was a yellow bus we rode.
Yeah. Nice. And so when you were a kid in the village growing up, because you grew up in Georgeville, what would you guys do for fun? What did the village look like for a kid your age at the time?
Oh, we played softball, we swam, skated, because we basically made the rink. We had one person, an older person, taking care of the rink, but we helped a lot, and we did a lot of bobsledding and stuff like that. So there was always something, and most kids had summer jobs, helping on farms or something.
And who helped you make the bobsleds?
Well, my parents, and also there was a blacksmith, and he used to put runners on the bobsleds for us, because he was in the winter. I guess he wasn't that busy. It was Mr. Woodard, and he would bend them, because it was a blacksmith. He'd bend the runners to put on them for us.
Oh, neat. That's super cool. And where did you guys used to go swimming? Like, was the Georgeville Wharf the main location to swim, or?
Yes, there in Mill Bay.
Oh, Mill Bay.
Yep.
So were there a bunch of houses there, or was it just like an open bay and you could just go swimming?
There was no houses at all.
Oh, really?
No houses at all.
And once you ended school, how did you get into construction? Did you go into construction right away, or did you do a job and then you said, oh, that's not for me, and then went into construction?
I went into construction, and I stayed there pretty well most of my life.
So how did you learn like the skills that you know today? Because you're quite a remarkable, I'd say, carpenter, handyman, house builder. Where did you learn your trades?
Well, I went to work for Charlie Partington, and I worked under Hugh Dustin and John Cochran to start with, and they were the foreman, and we learned how to build a house from beginning to end. I mean, from the footings to the time the whole house we were moved in. People were ready to move in, so I learned quite a lot that way. And you also learn on your own by your mistakes. And if things go good, I guess that's how you learn.
Nice. And did you ever work with your dad? Because your dad was a
stonemason.
Right.
Yes, I did. Yeah, I built chimneys with my dad, and that was good. I think I liked the carpenter work better than the stonework, although I think I could have done the stonework, because I think I had the physical body to do it. It takes a very strong body to handle stone all day.
Yes, this is true.
It's much heavier than carpenter work.
Oh yeah, I can imagine. And sorry, what was your dad's name again?
Actually, his name was Raymond, but his nickname was Buster.
Oh, nice.
And that I think came from when he was a child.
And and what were some of the projects? Because there's some projects in the village that he did. And also, isn't there like a wall in Stansted?
Yeah, there's a wall. Lady Banting's wall in Stansted was done by him and my older brother and Ted Smith.
Right.
And they built it pretty well. Well, they built it all, I should say.
Yeah.
And it's still there. I was there. I went by there yesterday. So.
Oh, really?
And it's still
there?
standing. Yeah.
Nice. And then the house that he lived in with his wife, with your mom.
Yeah.
Which is that house? And you could tell that he,
Oh, it's on McGowan Road. It's definitely his, and he did all the stonework from even the basement is made of stone.
That's quite remarkable. And the house, the house is still standing. Which
the house is standing. It was built. I don't know. Let me see. In the 80s, probably 70s or 80s. Yeah, something like that. I can't remember just when. We did the wood part. He did mainly all the stonework himself. That was his love. That and gardening.
Yeah, gardening too. That's great. So I remember earlier in the interview you mentioned that your house burned down, and just from like research and stuff, a lot of the houses in the village burned down, and so that you said somewhat contributed to the beginning of the fire department. Can you tell me about that and the start of all that?
Yeah, I think the real beginning was the Davidson, what we call the Davidson fire in our time, because we had no help at all. We had nothing to do with it, and people used garden hose, shoveled snow, did everything we could do, and that's why the end towards the Jack Atkins house is gone. I mean, it burned, but we were able to stop it from getting into the main house. And people just did anything we could do, and we called for Magog came with not any avail, and then Ayrescliff came with a pump, and we put it over by the Partington house in the brook and pumped water from there, and that's what stopped it. We had a siren which would wake everybody up, and so we could get people out on the post.
Where was the siren?
On the post in front of the general store.
Oh my gosh.
And if somebody saw something, they cranked the siren. And that hopefully woke up some people anyway.
So, so once the Davidson fire occurred, who started, collaborating to start the fire department?
Well, I think Neil and McTavish had the Esso garage, and he was quite concerned, and a bunch of us people all got together, and we all did dinners, suppers, and earned enough money to buy a pump and a few things, and gradually we bought 2 trucks, and then we bought the international truck, and it just developed from there on through. And everybody was really encouraged. We took courses in the American side, in Lyndonville and Newport and different places with the American, because it was too far to go to Montreal, and all the men gave their time to go to these courses and actually paid for the courses themselves. So.
And where would you guys put the fire trucks?
In the basement under the Memorial Hall to begin with. And we kept them there for a number of years, and then we got a pumper truck, a tanker truck, and we, in the summer, we kept it outside. In the wintertime, we rented a garage from Lloyd McTavish, and we put it there in the winter so it would be warm and the water wouldn't freeze.
Oh, okay, nice. And so if there was a fire in the village, would you guys like sleep in the hall, or how would people contact you so you would know to go get the fire truck and attend the fire?
No, nobody slept in the hall. Everybody it was a phone service. And the closest ones to the hall were top on the line. And usually the wife of the closest, the first one that got the call, started phoning house to house after that. And that's how it was done. We had a list of 20 people in Georgeville that we could phone that were all willing to have their name on the list. And that's basically how it started. And the garages and the stores were the two places where the phone call went first, because there was usually people there, eh?
Right.
More people in the house, because the other men were at work.
Right.
But we never had a shortage of men. We always had plenty of manpower. Everybody backed up their village, as you might say.
Right. Right. And these fire trucks were quite something. Didn't you say that when eventually you sold, like the first one, it was considered an antique or something like that?
Yes, it was. It was sold to Quebec. It went to Quebec to an international garage, and because it had the gold flecks in the paint, and the guy wanted it as an antique to show in front of his garage. And that's supposed to be luck for the firemen.
Oh, neat. I didn't know that. And do you have any favorite memories from the village that you want to share?
Well, I think my part of my favorite part of the village, if anybody's down and out, the village people are all willing to help. If there's a storm, everybody's there to help. And I think it makes for a good village that way. Nobody counts anything, they're just willing to be there to help.
Right.
Well, Balanced Rock was, I noticed one year was out of position, and it had been forced by the ice, I guess, to the point where it was balanced on the edge of the south end of Long Island. So I asked Alex if he could help me, and your son,
Yeah,
Larry, and the three of us, with Paul Carignan playing the drums, moved the rock inch by inch. We boosted it up about an inch, and then pushed it, and then we
changed it. We had chain blocks and
we had chain blocks to pull it. But it was so heavy that you couldn't pull it on the surface. You had to jack it up a little bit.
Jack it up, put rollers
and put rollers
underneath. Remember?
Yeah.
We put rollers and stuff and moved it on rollers.
But we had to jack it up a lot.
We had to pick it right off its axis, where it had been on its axis for a long time. Eh?
Yeah. And it's now not exactly where it was to begin with, but it's close, and it's no longer in jeopardy of being pushed into the water. So
we had it so it would balance perfectly, and then we were scared it was going to go back into the water. Remember?
Oh, did
remember we had it so you said maybe that's a bit touchy if we leave it like that, and so we moved it enough so it's not exactly where it was originally. It should have been originally, but it was so close. Eh?
Yeah.
So, for one final story, Alex, for the interview, I know there's something, your brother had quite an adventure on the lake actually a while back.
Oh.
Can you tell me about that?
It's probably 50 years back.
Yeah.
There was a plane landing on the other side in Sergeant's Bay, and it was hitting the ice and going back up. This had to be in early January, and he was watching it, and he knew the ice had frozen on this side of the lake a day or two before, and all of a sudden the plane decides it's going to taxi across towards Georgeville, and on its way across, it went through. And anyway, I think being young and not as wise as he would be today, he jumped on his skidoo, because he had a skidoo, and went out and got the two guys. And he said to one of them, only one get on, because the ice is moving under me. But they both got on, and they were all three lucky enough to get back to shore without anybody getting hurt or drowning. They were very cold. They were wet, because they said from when they walked down the wings, they walked in water, and that was just off out of Sergeant's Bay. They got part the way across. I believe they took the plane out a number of years later. But
so it sunk.
It sunk. Oh, it went down. It blew, actually. Must be the gas in the wings blew, but it did go down. Yeah.
That's.
Yeah, it's quite something. I know my father got down there as he was going out on the lake, and he was pretty scared that he wasn't coming back.
Oh gosh.
Anyway.
What'd your mom think about all this?
Not a very happy camper. But my brother was young and probably didn't realize. Anyway, the Air Force gave him a bit of money, but my mother would have wished they'd have gave him some sort of recognition, because as a kid, he spent the money quickly. Anyway. Nice.
What did he spend the money on?
Gas for the skidoo.
Yeah,
definitely.
It makes sense, honestly.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's quite a remarkable story, and I think it's a testament to how much your family has helped so many people in Georgeville over the years, and how important the Bernais family is in Georgeville. So thank you, Alex, for sitting down with me today and going over your family's history. I mean, the Georgeville Historical Society is very lucky to get someone like you to do one of these interviews, just because your family has been here for so long and you guys are all so involved. So thank you so much. Thanks, guys. Thanks for watching, and see you next time. Bye.
Bye.